All right. Welcome to this session on supporting duty to God at a national level. Your presenter today is Wayne Stuckey. Wayne is the past president of the National Lutheran Association on Scouting and a member of the BSA National Religious Relationships Committee. A former Scoutmaster, Wayne has served on Wood Badge and NYLT staffs, taught at his council's University of Scouting, served on Lutheran staff at 3 National Scout Jamborees, taught at the Scouting in the Lutheran Church Conference, and directed youth leadership training in his troop as a youth run and youth taught course from 2003 to 2015. A strong advocate of the Religious Emblems Program, Wayne has received the Lutheran Lamb and God and Service Awards, Silver Beaver, Vigil Honor in the Order of the Arrow, and the National President Scoutmasters Award of Merit. Wayne?
My wife is telling me I need to adjust my screen. Is it adjusted well enough?
There should be a slideshow and then start from the beginning. Up towards the top or that bottom button, your choice.
Wayne had to switch computers at the last minute because his computer broke.
I understand that. All right.
So are you seeing it now, or is it covered by something?
No, you're good.
Okay, very good. Welcome back to the second of our little information introductory sessions on duty to God in the Scouting program. We did one on Monday, which has been recorded and is available on the Duty to God BSA YouTube channel. And we'll have another one tomorrow on supporting duty to God in the local area, the local region. Kristen Rogan, I haven't seen her join yet. She's my backup presenter. She didn't get home in time from work on Monday, so she might be having that trouble again. Kay Stuckey is my wife. She's listed on here as Catherine, and she will be your Zoom techie and also will be looking at the chat comments that you present. And we'll try to have some time to look at those chat comments at the end. The way that my video is shared here, I cannot see your comments, or if you raise your hand, I can't see it. Probably the best thing to do is to use the chat feature. That would be either at the top or the bottom of your display, depending on what kind of device you have. And Kay will try to run down the chat questions at the end. Okay, this is just a little pre-summary slide that looks at the stuff that we'll be looking at today at the national support for duty to God at the national level. I want to talk just briefly about the reaffirmation of duty to God as a fundamental value in the Scouting programs, about the BSA Declaration of Religious Principle, about the observance of Scout Sunday, Scout Sabbath, Scout Juma in the charter religious organizations, the religious emblems coordinator positions, and especially the unit religious emblems coordinator, encouraging the use of the religious emblems program, talk a little bit about the National Religious Relationships Support Committee, what it is and what it does, and about providing chaplains for national level activities such as jamborees, National Order of the Arrow conferences, and high adventure bases, especially at Philmont Scout Ranch. At its annual meeting in May of 2018, the National executive board reaffirmed BSA's, as they said it, unwavering commitment to duty to God and unequivocal commitment to the declaration of religious principle as fundamental components of the mission of the Boy Scouts of America. In the red box down there is, oops, I did that. Let me see if I can get back or not. In the red box down there is a piece of the Declaration of Religious Principle, which says the recognition of God as the ruling power in the universe and the grateful acknowledgement of his favors and blessings are necessary for the best type of citizenship and are wholesome precepts in the education of the growing members. No matter what the religious faith of the member may be, this fundamental of good citizenship should be kept before them. That's part of the Declaration of Religious Principles. Since 1911, a Scout has been expected to affirm his belief in God. That's from the 1911 Boy Scout Handbook. And the Declaration of Religious Principle has been pretty much the same ever since 1911. The Boy Scouts of America maintains that no member can grow into the best kind of citizen without recognizing an obligation to God. So we're in the a business of teaching values and growing character. And so the BSA is saying the basis for that is recognizing an obligation to God. Furthermore, only persons that are willing to subscribe to the precepts of the Declaration of Religious Principle and the codes of the Boy Scouts of America shall be entitled to certificates of membership. So this declaration is now on every membership application, youth as well as adult. So youth, or their parents at least, will have acknowledged this and signed up for it to get membership in any of the Boy Scout programs. Let's say a little bit about Scout Sunday, Scout Sabbath, Scout Juma. The Scout Sunday encourages Scouts to focus on their duty to God. It's another way that they can demonstrate and bring to mind their duty to God. It's another means of outreach and ministry between the chartering organization and the scouting unit. It's also a way to say thanks and to build a strong relationship with the charter organization. Someone on Monday's session put up a chat that said, the congregation that's chartering my unit is having a hard time financially during this COVID crisis, and they're wanting to charge our unit for the use of the facility. That kind of demonstrates that there's not a good understanding between the charter organization and the scouting unit. They don't realize that the scouting unit is their own. They probably aren't charging their Sunday school, for instance, for using space, and neither should they be charging their scout unit. On the other hand, the scout unit should have been doing things for the charter organization, maybe even helping with some of their fundraisers, spaghetti dinners and things like that, or helping to clean up around the church. So when things begin to get too loose from one another, then bad things can happen. Scouts and their leaders should be invited to participate in uniform so that the Scouts are recognized in the congregation. They might not all be from that congregation, but they should attend as many as possible in a group and be in front and center of the congregation. They should be encouraged to participate in as many elements of the worship as they can, in any of those different roles that you see there that are age appropriate for them. Usually Scout Sunday, Scout Sabbath, Scout Juma are celebrated on the worship day of the particular religion during the week in February that is the birthday of Boy Scouts of America, during the February 8th week. Or it can be celebrated on any day that is most convenient to the congregation. Moving on a little bit to talk about the position of Religious Emblems Coordinator. There are 3 adult positions called Religious Emblems Coordinator, and those positions are at the unit, the district, and the council levels. These were created about 2014 for the purpose of promoting the use of the religious emblems and encouraging youth to earn the religious emblem of their faith. There's a lot of information about it there at the PRAY website, praypub.org. PRAY is the Program of Religious Activities with Youth. And they have not only information about the Protestant and Independent Church programs, but they have links to the other programs as well, to the programs of other faith groups. It's a busy chart. I'm trying to show you that there is a relationship between the religious emblems coordinators at the unit, the district, and the council level. They operate as a member of the committee at whichever level they are at, and usually in relationship with the advancement committee. So the religious emblems coordinator at the unit level should get information and share information with the district, and similarly to the council. The council religious emblems coordinator should be a reporting organization to local faith groups, they should receive information then from organizations such as PRAY, who keep track of, who administer, the Jewish Committee on Scouting, the National Catholic Committee on Scouting, who administer the various faith-based religious emblems. The little yellow circles at the bottom are different kinds of events and things that could be put on at these different levels. For instance, at the council level, maybe a Duty to God retreat, for instance. Here's a list, 8 things that the unit religious emblems coordinator is supposed to do. This list is available on that PRAY website at the link that I gave you before, but it basically says, yes, they're a member of the unit committee. Their responsibilities are to acquaint the youth in their unit that there are religious emblems and what faith groups they're available from. They also need to be available to provide the families and the clergy in the chartering religious organization information about the religious emblems program, because a lot of clergy, pastors, priests, and so forth are not really familiar with the religious emblems because they haven't had this this association before with something that is primarily in the scouting programs, but is not certainly restricted to the scouting programs. They should give information that they have to the scouts and scouters in the district or the council for religious emblems activities, retreats, and camps, and so forth. They should be responsible for promoting the acquisition of religious emblems, similarly to what you do for other youth advancement. And of course, I said already, they should be a liaison with the district religious emblems coordinator. But let's go on a little bit to talk about the religious emblems program. There are approximately 40 different faith-specific religious groups that participate in the Religious Emblems program. An important thing to know is that the religious emblems are developed and administered by the participating faith group. To say it simply, they're owned by the church, not by the BSA. And their purpose is to encourage youth to grow stronger in their faith. So when you teach these religious emblems, they should be taught by the faith group clergy or an appointed layperson, not by the unit leaders of the scouting unit. But they are encouraged by the BSA, by some of the advancement requirements that we looked at on Monday that tie in with duty to God. And they're also encouraged in that the BSA allows the youth who has earned at least one of the religious emblems to wear the silver on purple knot, number 5007 there, if you have to order it. Now that knot is a BSA knot that is suitable for wearing on the youth or the adult uniform. It carries over onto the adult uniform when earned as a youth. The religious emblems. BSA itself runs a web page on scouting.org that talks about the religious emblems. I said there were 40 some. If you go to this page on scouting.org that I have in the box there, you will see a clickable chart that has all of the religious emblems on it. Can you see my cursor if I move it? Can anybody see it? Just let me know. Yes, okay. So the clickable chart, I've lost my own cursor, is also downloadable as a PDF. And so if you click on that link down here, this is actually a screenshot of the web page. So if you click on that link down there, you get to download a copy, a color copy of the Duty to God brochure. I was told Monday when we were talking about the Duty to God brochure that the National Publishing House seems to be out of copies of the Duty to God brochure, and they may not be printing them again. I don't know that for sure, but you can always download them here and print your own. There's going to be a revision. They're working on that revision. It's not ready yet. I still have the 2019 printing of the Duty to God brochure that I'm giving out and using. It has a FAQ, frequently asked questions. It has information on how to get started in the program. And it has some videos about the Religious Emblems Coordinator, information about what they do at each of the levels, and tells you where to contact. But if you have that chart, it'll give you good contact information for all of the faith groups that have religious emblems. So you might be saying, how do I get that for my young person? Well, the first thing to start, I always recommend, is to contact the pastor or other clergy of your particular faith group, because the clergy feels, and rightly so, that they are responsible for the religious training of those people who are in their flock. And so they should have the first opportunity to know that a youth is going to enter into taking the religious emblems, and also give them an opportunity to teach it if they want. Now, all the pastors I know are pretty busy people. And so they may decide that they really can't take that on, especially if they're not familiar with it. So they may be willing to appoint a lay person whom they know to be up on the doctrine of their particular religion, sort of like appointing a Sunday school teacher, perhaps, to be the person who teaches the religious emblems. You might have to educate your pastor. As I said before, a lot of pastors are not familiar with the religious emblems program unless they have been in scouting. So you may need to get that Duty to God brochure, download it online, print it out, and demonstrate that to the pastor or the clergy. You also have to buy a student workbook for each student who's taking the religious emblems. And if you're going to teach it, you need the counselor workbook. Those are often stocked at your council store, or you can order them directly from Pray at their website, praypub.org. Now, who teaches the things? Well, contact that unit religious emblems coordinator, and if you don't have one in your unit, try contacting the district one. Remember, they don't teach them, but they ought to be discovering who in their district, for example, are teaching religious emblems. Go to other congregations that are nearby, go to other units that are nearby, and see if they have counselors for the level that you need. And then lastly, could you do it yourself? Well, again, you talk to your pastor. The initial levels, such as God and Me, that are for second and third grade, and right now for first, are oriented toward being done as a family. And you probably can easily become a counselor for, say, God and Me. I listened to the Pray presentation yesterday about all that they're doing to promote virtual earning of the religious emblems during this crisis. And they have a whole page full of resources. If you get the counselor booklet, you have laid out for you the lesson plans, you have all the scriptures that you need, you have explanations of the scriptures. As an auxiliary document, they have a 30-day plan for each of the religious emblems. So yeah, you're not out in the dark fumbling around trying to become a counselor. There are resources available. If you want to do it, you can do it. Talk a little bit about the National Religious Relationships Support Committee. There are over 30 religious partners that are members of this National Support Committee of the BSA National Committee. And they do a lot of things. One of them is literature development and training. For instance, if you go to the position-specific training on myscouting.org, you can see training for unit, district, and council level chaplains. You can see an advanced training course for chaplain and chaplain aide. The NRRC also wrote an interfaith religious service to use at the Order of the Arrow National Leadership Seminars, and they're working on a training module for the OA National Leadership Seminar. I think it's still under development. They're doing chaplain recruiting for the National Scout Jamboree. They did it for the World Scout Jamboree, the BSA High Adventure Bases, and the National OA Conference. There were 140 chaplains at the 2017 National Scout Jamboree. Our being National Lutheran Association on Scouting head chaplain has been recruiting for about a year. The goal is to get 10 Lutherans. If we get 10 of everybody else, we'll certainly meet our goal of 140 chaplains supporting scouts there at the National Scout Jamboree. One of the big things that the NRRC does is to look at opportunities for advocacy of inclusion of duty to God in areas where the BSA program is lacking them, and to advocate for those. They established a National Duty to God Award in 2016. The response has been great to that. So many applications came in at a lower level not the national level for recognition, but a lower level that they're looking to see if they can extend that Duty to God award to council level. And that's still being worked on. The National Religious Relationships Committee maintains a social media presence. It has a Duty to God website, a Facebook page, has YouTube videos, electronic newsletter. On that YouTube channel, there are a series of virtual faith hike videos where Amanda interviewed the representatives of many of the faith groups that are in the NRRC, and she posted those so that you could do a virtual faith hike in watching those videos. That is the that is the YouTube channel for the NRRC. Duty to God BSA is how you get there. Okay, I talked about a bunch of stuff, and so I put together a few resource links just so that you could look at them. When you get to see, if you download the whole presentation, you'll see that there are notes under many, many of the slides, and those also have some links in them. So use your resources. And I appreciate that you came back for today to talk about supporting the Duty to God at the national level. I hope you come back tomorrow when we talk about the local level. So I think you can now open your microphones, and if you were raising your hand, you have a question, and we can also get Kay to go through any of the chat questions that we might have.
All right, thank you, Wayne. You want to end your screen share, then we can all see each other easier during this.
Okay, I will do that, and I'm glad you said to do that.
Wayne, this is Mary Elizabeth from National Capital Area Council, and I've been doing the training for our counselors for the whole council for many years.
Yes.
And one of the things that I think people do not understand, and we have to get the word out, is that adult mentors do not earn the NOT. They think they get it because they've done that program, and they don't understand why they need to do the mentor program if they're not going to get the NOT. So we just have to educate them. And they're okay with it.
We should explain that a mentor is a parent or a guardian who goes through the program with the youth, but only the youth earn the religious emblem. And that is a source of confusion. The counselor is the teacher, and the counselor doesn't earn the emblem either.
No.
This is for youth.
I've had a question pop up in my chat, and a quick overview for you guys. If you're thinking National Religious Relationships Committee and you're going, what is that? We have the National Boy Scouts of America office has a whole bunch of different working committees underneath ours. So we have the National Religious Relationships Committee. We currently have about 8 to 9 different subcommittees that have members from as many of the different faith partners as we can find people for. And they're doing anything from, we have one called Religious Rights and Liberties. They're keeping an eye on different court cases that are coming up and what do we need to look for from the national office. We have mine, which is social media, that does events like this and maintains all of our social media pages. We have ones like John Lyon is on that works with different religious emblems programs. We have training subcommittees. We have one that works with the general duty to God on trying to get merit badges, or working with the Trust Award through Adventuring, or working with the National Duty to God Award. So there's a bunch of different subcommittees. We always love getting help. If you're ever wanting to get involved in helping with the national level, there is a process that you have to go through. For this particular committee, it's getting approval from both your council and your faith group and then approaching up to the committee, and we find the right spot for you on a different subcommittee that fits your actual skills. If you're looking at wanting to get involved, feel free to send me an email. We'll start that process, see what we can do. But because it is a national committee, there's different procedures and policies in place on how to get people involved. John, do you want to say anything else about the national committee, or Caroline, or any of the others that are on here?
Well, since you called on me, Amanda, and I'll save the group because normally people have asked me to give a pun, and I'm not sure you're ready for one in the afternoon. But the reality of it is, for the committee that I'm part of, and we have just recently merged that with also the Literature Review Committee. So we have a rather daunting task ahead of us, and I should just kind of briefly mention about the religious emblems. Currently, there are 42 of them. There's another one that is going through the final approval process right now. And that is a key aspect of what we do. We have many different faiths represented. And a short version, how a process happens is simply this. The new religious emblem is proposed. There are certain criteria that they do need to meet, but we review all of those requirements, not in the sense that any of us, unless it happens to be our faith group, has any expertise in it, but we're looking at it to make sure that it's age appropriate. And basically, if I could say it this way and people understand it, that once you complete it, you don't have a theology degree. That's a funny little aspect of looking at it, but we really want this to be age appropriate. So with that said, that's the process. It will take a while. Don't expect a quick turnaround. And that's why we try to be very, very conscientious about it. So that's a little bit about the committee and the literature review aspect. Well, there's ongoing work right now on the new handbooks, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I see a hand up for Paula Popper, and she's been patiently waiting. Can we get her question?
Can you believe I have a question? I think I've had one in every session. So I actually have two sort of related things. One is the difficulties that many of our youth and our adults and our leaders have around some of the phrasing in the religious declaration, either because it is so strongly written in terms of traditional Protestant Catholic Christianity that those of us who are not represented by those have trouble. We often just kind of say, we're just going to assume it says something that, you know, we change the words in our head, which is not really the most straightforward way of dealing with that. But we also have folks who are non-theists. So I have a lot of people, I have a very religiously diverse area. I have a very strong representation from Hindus and Buddhists in my community. And most of them have said, we're just going to assume that when they say God and his, we're just going to translate it into our own understanding of it. And, you know, as long as nobody asks us too many pointed questions, we're good. Even though the Buddhists aren't theists at all. And then you have people who are more humanistic or believe in a moral underpinning of the universe and things like this, but not necessarily in a being and the way in which Christianity describes it. So they struggle with this because they believe in the moral uprightness and their moral principles and all of the things that Scout stands for, except for when it narrows that description of God into such tiny words. And being that my role, I'll never be able to sit on any of your committees because I am not affiliated with any one of even my own faith community. I'm not affiliated as a chaplain with my faith community. I am a community interfaith chaplain. I am purposely unaffiliated. So everything I do is multi-faith and interfaith work on helping Scouts and other people wherever they are. So I kind of sit here and look at that definition as well and say this, you know, a good part of the people I would describe as my congregation, if you will, because I have a chapel without walls, wouldn't feel comfortable with that religious declaration. Yet these would be some of the most upstanding moral people that I have ever met. And they have strong faith if you go to the root words of what faith is about, but they are not religious. And many of us really have a problem with the religious piece about it and not the spiritual moral understanding about about how our world is created and all of that. So this is where we really struggle. And I was hoping in this session on national stuff that we might get a little more leadership about that rather than the how to do religious emblems, because we've done how to do religious emblems in a couple sessions already. So I'm kind of, looking for guidance when I've got people either from a non-theistic or non-traditionally Christian faith group, and how to have their emblems and achievements recognized with a religious nod, or how to talk with them about the understanding of when BSA says God, this is a shorthand version of this larger concept. So this is where I'm struggling. So any help you can
say something. A lot of people have debated, and there are an awful lot of chat groups that go round and round about the things that you're talking about. So you're not alone in this.
I know.
I think that the definition is purposefully left vague or open. The word God may connote to people monotheistic, Christian, Jewish, Islamic God. But the question then is, what else do you call God? Do you say creator? Do you say divine being? All of those things you were concerned with. So I think it is on purpose left open.
Except that it doesn't feel very open for a lot of people. I mean, the word God really leaves a lot of people out in the cold. And saying his principles and his blessings. That's where part of this problem is that if it defines it actually too narrowly.
What would you call it though? Is the thing they're trying.
I often talk about if people believe in a spiritual or moral foundation to the universe and know that obligation to maintain a spiritual and moral outlook on life is part of being a good citizen. That is a very encompassing statement. And it works very well for pretty much because when I end up counseling life scouts who are getting ready for Eagle Board of Review, and they're like, Mrs. Popper, we've been listening to you, or we know you through this other thing. How do I answer duty to God questions, and so I end up having this conversation a lot.
Let me try to put a simple definition on it. God is who you believe he is. And I want to appeal to the Guide to Advancement and read a little bit of that and see if that will help you. The Boy Scouts of America does not define what constitutes belief in God or practice of religion. Neither does the BSA require membership in a religious organization or association for membership in the movement. If a scout does not belong to a religious organization or association, then the scout's parents or guardians will be considered responsible for religious training. All that is required is the acknowledgement of belief in God as stated in the Declaration of Religious Principle. That's about as simple as you can make it, as long as you're not hung up on the word G-O-D.
I will respectfully disagree with you, and we can take this to another conversation, and I won't hold up the message.
Okay. Are there other people who want to ask a question or say something?
Can I talk?
Yes.
To ping off the last conversation, I'm wondering if there's a way that the District of Council Emblems Coordinator could be empowered to work on individual plans with families that fall into those categories, or local congregations that might fall into those categories, to come up with a solution that would be understood locally and would not place stress on the parents or the scouts to try to advocate for their own inclusion, but rather to find a way for the parents and leaders to work together with the district or council to come up with a good solution that might not be as clearly defined as the others. I'll turn my mic off.
If you go look at the chart of religious emblems that I referred to, if you go to the website and pull it up, you will see many religious organizations, or faith groups that are there. And they probably include some of the ones that you're concerned about. And if you see them there, they certainly are accepted. And there is a religious emblem program for them. Now, whether you know, it may be difficult to find.
I wouldn't be asking the question if the people that I was concerned about and have come to me for help were represented in that book, in that pamphlet. I wouldn't have been asking that question. I do have that actually fairly well memorized. And, you know, so I know that in the trenches of where I work, the odds of me ever getting an adult recognition of religious, you know, activity are pretty slim because I'm unaffiliated. So, you know, so many of them are very much specific to their denominations. I teach the independent Protestant ones and I teach the Jewish ones because of where I can fit in on things. But at the same time, neither one of those is suitable for somebody who does not have a belief in the beingness of God, but more of an all-permeating force, which actually fits well with parts of some of other theologies, but is not represented and is very excluded in the way the definition of the religious declaration is written. So I was hoping that there was some, you know, I don't know if there's further discussion going on about the wording of this at National. And I also don't know if we have a fairly high pagan representation around here. And they believe very much in a dual God. But they don't have too much in the way of national organizations. So trying to get something recognized is difficult. So, you know, we've gone round in circles. I spent about last 4 years going around in circles trying to figure out who to talk to and getting sent all over the place. So I don't know in all the committees you have who I can talk to and say, somebody point me to a real person. And
Amanda was suggesting that you talk to Gene Butler at National, who is the staff professional.
And then ask him to run it up the flagpole from him. The position, who has which position changes. So it may be something that he can run up the flagpole from that point.
I will double check our correspondence and get in touch with you and make if it's already been him. Okay.
There was a question from Carla Brown saying, I wish there was an interfaith curriculum for Scouts who want to earn a religious emblem that is based on comparative religion. There is not, to my knowledge, a religious emblem that does that, but at the venturing level, there is the Trust Award. And part of the Trust Award is actually, well, there are options, but one of the options is to do that kind of comparison. So if the youth is of the appropriate age and affiliated with the venturing program, there is that possibility, not as a religious emblem, but as personal growth.
Wayne, if I could, I've got just a quick insight regarding the interfaith component that you just mentioned. There has been proposed, and it was done once a few years ago, and then it was resubmitted with a little different format. And currently under review are 2 different merit badges. One which is faith-centric to the Scout. One is more of a community faith exposure. And the reason I'm rather tentative about it is that this is an extremely interesting process, because since it's a proposed merit badge, yes, it comes through the National Religious Relationships Committee, but it also goes through the National Advancement Committee. And when you have 2 committees, which at this moment, with the lack of a national meeting happening this year due to COVID-19, we are far further behind than what we anticipated we might be in looking at when that might happen. It's hard to have the discussions, and you can only imagine that, you know, if you get 150 emails a day as a volunteer, it's a little bit tough to sort through all of that. Let me back up for just a second, because I can only speak to 2 other countries that I've had experience with. At the World Jamboree, we had a Duty to God in North America exhibit. And one of the things that we did was to focus on the host countries, Mexico, Canada, and the US. And one of the things that was highlighted in that little early portion of the presentation was how each country looked at duty to God. And Mexico has almost verbatim the same declaration of religious principle that the US does. Canada is a little bit different in that, because they have a different way of approaching that. But what they also have is, contrasting to Mexico, who does not have any religious emblems, Canada has about 10 versus our 42. And they match up with the major faith groups. However, in Canada, there is one interesting one called spirituality. And it seems to fit many of the categories of what I'm hearing discussed here. But I would say to you that when I start looking with my Canadian friends and saying, well, how many of those are earned? That's about the response I get. They don't really say much about them. So it's a question of what is the heart of volunteers to advance different aspects of it. Obviously, in the religious emblems of the US, we have an incredible heritage of those, and it's grown. And as I frequently say, it starts at the African Methodist Episcopal and goes all the way to the Zoroastrian. So that's just what I know of at least 2 other countries. Thanks.
Wayne,
Yes.
Mary Elizabeth here. Reverend Lyons of the Baltimore Council was on the Pray Board for many years, and he put together the God and the World program, and he tried to get Pray to sponsor it, but because it covered various religions of the world, they did not want to do that, to sponsor it. But it is available through the Baltimore Council, and anybody can do it, and it compares many different faiths, and you visit different faith organizations, and it's a really nice patch.
Thank you for reminding me of that, because I have met Reverend Lyons, and he's actually talked about that in a class I was in some long years ago. Appreciate it.
And
John,
you can download it. There's no charge to download it either, the requirements.
so it's a council award, though.
Well, you just order it from council, from the Baltimore Council.
Is it under a faith group, or is it a council award?
I can't answer that for sure.
I don't recall either. John Lyon, who was just speaking, mentioned some merit badges, and there's also a proposal to develop a Scouts BSA version of the Trust Award, and that also is taking serious lag because of all of the membership change or leadership change at national. But maybe someday there will be something similar to that for Scouts BSA, where you have that comparative opportunity.
If I could jump in on that topic real quick. I'm based in Rome in Transatlantic Council, and in my day job, I'm a professor of interreligious dialogue and ecumenism. And there is an international program out of the World Scouts movement that I know BSA is not yet officially adopted, and I'm not even sure what the process for that is or would be. But there's a relatively new interreligious dialogue or interfaith dialogue badge, activity badge, and then there's a more extensive dialogue for peace training program. And we've been working here with the European region, trying to sort of put together something that we could float and invite BSA Scouts to be invited into international offerings, or see what we could do, how we could adopt it as a program at least, or training, even if there's not an official badge or patch in the BSA yet. So I'm happy to share what I've learned out of that or what I've found. But it's this week has been great because it's been most of my time in the last year and a half has been just trying to find who the contact people in BSA are to have the conversation about how do we get this WASM program into BSA or what can we do about it. So it's been great, this conversation, and to see that there's others interested in it.
I see that there's a comment here about the new diversity merit badge that has been announced and probably is still under development for some time. Says I would like to see a religious comparison option in the diversity merit badge.
For that diversity merit badge, I know they're still forming the committee to come up with the requirements. So while it is coming, it's going to take a while.
There's your opportunity, Beth.
I use my American cultures when we're talking about cultures to choose, and there's usually an examination of religious and social things. We use that as an opportunity to do some religious comparison. And I'd have a conversation about religious differences in the citizenship and the community. So I slide it in there.
All right. We're getting through within the next couple minutes of another session starting. So any last questions before we wrap this one up? All right, well, thank you, Wayne, for the presentation. And any of the questions that we weren't able to answer, if you send us an email, we will try to track down answers. They may take some time as we only meet quarterly, and then email correspondence in between all of that. But we will try to grab answers as quickly as we can for you guys. All right, thank you.
Hello, thank you for coming.
All right.